Welcome to the Tingling Tea. Here at the Tingling Tea, we talk about the weird and the wonderful, the creepy and the cryptid, the strange and the supernatural, and all that is phenomenally freaky. With me, as always, are my guests and co-hosts, the wonderful, the beautiful, the amazing, talented, and intelligent Annabelle Chimpton.
Hey, I seriously thought you were going with Aga for that one.
Well, nope, it's you.
But I knew you brought it back when you said charming.
Yes, exactly. So, without further ado, we're speaking of Augie. Augie, who has been my friend for some odd years, one of the most intelligent people I know, very gifted leader, intelligent and thorough young man who knows a lot about movies and films. He is an authority on a lot of things, and he's also one of the wisest people that I know. The incredibly handsome Mr. Augie Eddie Ominous Peterson. And you're mute after all of that.
And demuted Augie Ominous.
If you could just hear me, I was saying the most important and wise things coming out of my mouth.
Oh, you were? It was coming out?
It was definitely coming out. Something was coming out.
It was so wise you forgot to unmute yourself.
Oh yes. You were so lucky to be in my presence this evening.
Oh, hello, Mayhem.
Oh, hey, Mayhem.
Susan. Well wishes for you all. And guess who's looking? Hash.
Hash is always looking whenever we screw up. Poor Hash.
Anyway, welcome everybody. We always have to give a disclaimer before we talk about anything that we talk about this evening. This is an adult show, so it is at the 8 o'clock hour. If you're somebody who's creeped out about this kind of content, please turn us off or turn us down. And if you have any children watching, we ask that you use parental discretion and not allow your children to watch, if you feel that it's something that would give them nightmares, because we do often go there when it comes to talking about the strange supernatural things that are happening in this crazy world that we live in. So, interestingly enough, and probably just, there are so many that I'm so excited about films that are coming out right now.
Me too.
And I know that you have some things that we're going to talk about this stuff in the past, but this is Women's History Month.
Yes, it is.
It's Women's History Month, and this is a time where we celebrate women from history, which have often gone overlooked, believe it or not, in this day and age. So we're celebrating that right now here on the Tingling Tea. We have a lot of content tonight that is it's related specifically to Women's History Month this evening. But let's get back to the films. Now, this is not a horror film per se, but guess what's coming out tomorrow?
What is coming out tomorrow?
Coming to America.
Yes!
Coming to America. I've been counting the days.
Yes, Coming to America is coming tomorrow on Amazon Prime. Am I correct? Is that Amazon Prime that is coming out on?
Amazon Prime. I am so excited. I have been watching a countdown. I literally have a countdown on my computer of the days to go to Coming to America.
Yes, I cannot wait. I cannot wait. I have been waiting for this for how long has it been since the original came out? I can't remember.
Oh God, the 80s. This must be like 86 or 87 or something.
Was it the 80s that it came out or the early 90s?
I feel like it was the 80s. We're going to have to IMDb this.
1988.
88.
Oh my God, it was 88.
It's basically the 90s at that point.
No, I'm sorry.
Is it the 80s or the 90s?
It's definitely the 80s.
It's definitely 88.
1988. Yeah. So, in 1988, I just had gotten hired with American Airlines. I was a flight attendant at that time. I was getting ready to leave to go to training. And I remember sitting in the theater watching Coming to America, the original Coming to America, with my girlfriend, Elisa, who at the time was dating Eddie Murphy's valet.
Wow. That's some dish right there. Now you're spilling the tea.
I have a lot of tea on that. But we'll save that for maybe another show per se. But
Can we do like an Eddie Murphy dish show?
Yeah.
I don't know if I can dish that much on
Hey
Eddie
viewers,
Murphy.
welcome to our weekly Eddie Murphy show.
No, I mean it was a very interesting time. Let's just say, it was the time where it was the 80s. Everything was free. I had just finished being an NFL cheerleader, and then I was getting ready to be a flight attendant. And that was
the amazing SistaSlaya, everybody. She has done it all. She's done it all and then some.
SistaSlaya does it all. That's what I definitely should name the show that we share is SistaSlaya does it all. Anyway, so I've been waiting a long time for this movie. It's going to be interesting to see Eddie, an older Eddie. He is not the same Eddie Murphy that he was a long time ago. So it's going to be an older Eddie and an older Arsenio.
How old is
older Arsenio? You have James Earl Jones who's coming back.
Wow.
Yes.
It is like going to be amazing.
Eddie Murphy's 60 now. He's 59 years old.
Really?
Yeah.
He's only a year older than I am. I always thought that he was much older than I was.
Wow. You're so brave. So many people don't want to share their age.
Oh, I'm happy to share my age, honey. I look good for my age. I'm going to tell you right now, I'm very happy about how I look. I've aged very well.
Same. I think I look pretty good for 21 as well.
I think you look good,
Me too.
In fact, you look good too.
In fact, in 1988, I was in the embryonic phase at that moment.
Mm-hmm.
I was negative 10 years old.
What? Are you serious?
Yeah.
My God.
Hell no.
Yeah, you were born in what, 1998, Augie?
That's right. Of course I was.
Y'all are so young. Oh my goodness, y'all are so young.
I was so young.
Yeah, he said the tea is good today. Oh, it would be even better if we could dedicate some time to that tea. We will at some point we'll revisit that.
If we have stories on Eddie Murphy that have not been shared with the world, we must share that here.
Yes.
This is where that will drop. Let me tell you.
Les has stories on plenty of folks.
Can we do a show where our whole purpose is to get Eddie Murphy to come on for a live interview?
Let's totally do that.
Every episode is us trying to get Eddie to come on.
I agree. Every day we drop
How many shows do you think it would take?
I don't know. He's starting to be hot again, so it's going to be tough.
Yeah, definitely going to be tough. And especially if we got some dish.
Or the Spice Girls.
Yeah, it's the Spice Girls. Yes.
How about,
I bet we could get to Scary Spice in like 5 shows or less.
How much do you want to bet we get visited by Eddie Murphy's lawyers before we get visited by Eddie Murphy?
No, listen, I'm not gonna spill that much dish, but I do have dish, but not that much. I don't want to. One thing I do say about Eddie Murphy is that I respect him. And we were young, and it was the 80s. A lot of stuff happened when we were in the 80s. It was a very different time. It was
partied all the time. Partied all the time. Exactly. That's
partied all the time.
Partied all the time. Which I have to tell you about him. Everybody was so shocked that he came out with this song. Like, what is this comedian coming out with the record?
All the time. Party all the time.
Eddie plays the piano by ear. He plays the piano by ear. And when I first met him, he was playing Ribbon in the Sky by Stevie Wonder on a grand piano at a hotel in St. Louis, all by ear and singing.
That's interesting. I usually play piano by my hands.
Wow, that truly is talent. I have never seen that, actually.
So silly. Yeah, that
was a good one, Annabelle.
Thank you.
Cha-ching!
Yeah, where's my sound effect?
Yeah, really.
Annabelle wins the first star of the evening.
Yes, she does. Cha-ching. But he is actually musically talented in that sense. He really is. And all I keep thinking about is you telling us last week that Eddie Murphy was supposed to be Candyman.
Oh, yes. Eddie Murphy is Candyman. Can anybody imagine? I can't imagine.
Yeah, that's what we have him come on the show about. What would have happened if you were Candyman?
The the character Donkey in Shrek
Frame by frame.
quite a bit different is what I think would have happened.
We need to switch Eddie Murphy with Candyman with someone else in an Eddie Murphy movie. Like the guy from Candyman has to be Donkey and Shrek or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
We're truly going to screw with history.
Yeah, actually do that. We should do that. We should actually do what if this person was actually cast in this role and this is what they would sound like doing the
Like
role.
greatest movie character swaps of all time.
Right, really, exactly. Tony Todd playing Donkey.
Of course.
Yeah. I just
Tony Todd coming to America.
Shrek would have been a really scary ogre then. Yeah.
Heck yeah. That would have changed the whole story around.
That would have changed the whole story around. And you know, his wife would have been saying Candyman in the mirror 3 times and you know, come to her demise, you know, by Donkey.
I just can't imagine Eddie Murphy in a role like that. I can't imagine that at all.
No, I can't either. But let's go ahead with the show because, of course, Annabelle, we're so excited that you are doing you're actually going to be doing a little talk about a game that you played.
Yes, I am.
This recently called Song of Horror.
Yes.
So do you want to tell us a little bit about it, or do you want the video?
Let me give a quick intro, and then I have some gameplay footage, and I'll talk about some of the mechanics while that's playing. So Song of Horror is a game that I actually had from the Humble Bundles. So if you don't use Humble Bundle, I want to go ahead and give a shout out because you can basically donate to charity and get games. Unlike a lot of things, you actually choose which amount of your money goes to the charities that are like up for a specific bundle and which amount goes back to Humble Bundle for operating services. So you have a lot of control over how you're donating your money when you do it through that service.
Amazing service.
Throwing that out there. Highly recommend them. I also get games monthly from them, and this was one of them. So, yep, Humble Bundle. HumbleBundle.com. They're not paying me to say that either.
Because it'd a whole bunch of story if we had them if they were supporting us.
Exactly. So Song of Horror is a third-person fixed perspective narrative game. How I would best describe this is almost like the Resident Evil games a little bit, where you go into a room and you can't control the camera effectively and you have to walk around. And it's like a Telltale game. There's Walking Dead Telltale games. What's the other one? There's The Wolf, I think, is one that's like the fairy tale mystery. Yeah. And it's very much, the gameplay feels like an old school adventure. So puzzle logic. And the setting is you're going to this haunted house by an author to like retrieve a manuscript at first. And we can let's go ahead and pull up the gameplay footage.
Okay.
Whoa, I love a haunted house. Is this the haunted house?
So this is the haunted house.
It has a satellite on the roof.
It has a satellite on the roof, right? So it's an updated haunted house.
I guess so. They have DirecTV.
Which doesn't work.
It does not work. I will say this game is very pretty. And you can see this as the character is walking in here in a second. It's really pretty. Look at the lighting, the attention to detail, the objects to interact with. And I would say that if you are a fan of kind of more of a slow burn story, then I really think that this game is something you would like. That being said, I don't know if I'd give this game the highest rating. So some of the other games I've played, they immediately pull you in. They're not a narrative experience. They're a little more like fast-paced and engaging. And the writing from my first like hour or so of play from this was kind of generic. You start off with this character archetype that is the divorced alcoholic detective inspecting spooky stuff. And the cutscenes are a little brutal, I think, for the actual gameplay you get in between. So usually if there's a lot of story cutscenes, then you want the game to be really exciting in between them, right? In this one, the gameplay is essentially a walking around and pressing E simulator to interact with objects.
What? Really?
That sounds so interesting.
I just have a question. Why do haunted houses and rich people have a lot of junk in their house?
Because the junk is the haunted stuff, right?
All these pictures and stuff.
Because it's gotta look scary and kind of maze-like.
It doesn't look haunted to me. It looks like a normal house, except you have the lights off and you're walking around with a flashlight.
Yeah,
I'd live there.
You would live. That's what I was saying. If it wasn't probably really haunted, then I think I would live here too. But
those pictures look scary.
Yeah, the pictures are pretty scary. There was one moment I would say of like actual suspense that I encountered the entire time that I was streaming this, versus the like instant dread that I would describe in some of the other horror games I've played. So I would really rank this as more of a storytelling experience. And I think if you go into that with that mindset, it might be something that's more up your alley. So if you want to kind of actively read/play a good horror story, then I'd give this game a thumbs up for you. If you want something that has a little more interactive gameplay, maybe drop it down a little bit.
So when do you actually interact with things other than like stuff that's laying around?
That's all I did for the entire time I played it. And I might just be really bad at solving the puzzles, but
you mean this could be like the most interesting game ever, you just don't know how to play it?
I don't think that's the case though. I don't if you've ever played some of the old school adventure games that is effectively like figuring out the right thing to click on the screen, like The Secret of Monkey Island is kind of a famous example I can think of. The writing is really engaging and supports it.
I think I just saw Eddie Murphy playing the piano.
By his ears, no less.
By his ears. All right.
So I would say with this game, I was just like far less engaged than I was 20 minutes into Alien Isolation, where I was like shaking on my controller, but I wanted to go forward because the story was so good and the aesthetics were so good. In this one, it looks really good and it's all just not wrapped up nice.
So like 1 to 5, 1 being ice cold, 5 being scalding hot. What would you rate this?
Somewhere between a 2 and a 3.
2 and a 3. Wah, wah.
It's not a total womp womp, but it's not one that I'm like, I can't wait to go back and play this. It was like, oh my God, thank you. I can finally stop playing this on stream moment.
Yeah.
Ooh. And was there any music to give effect?
There's a little bit of music. We can turn it on, but you're going to have to hear some of my stream voice.
Excellent. What do you sound like on stream?
You're going to hear a British accent.
Oh,
Wait,
I have one of those too, a British accent. I have one of those too.
Yeah, I only record in British accents. Oh.
Are you pulling my leg right now? Is this real?
No.
She is not.
Okay, so this was a real moment in this game.
Forget about the game. You have to turn up the volume so I can hear her British accent.
Is the sound not coming through? I must not be sharing it on StreamYard.
Oh, I don't hear it.
Oh, okay.
Why do you guys have British accents? What's going on?
I guess he's not going to know about our British accent then.
No.
So I will say there's a pivotal moment there where the character looks into a drawer and sees a key and they're like, oh, I need to go find oil to get this drawer open to get that key. And that was the moment that my opinion on the game tanked, because no adult would need to go get oil to break into that drawer if they wanted the key.
It's true. I've never needed oil to get into a drawer.
Exactly. And I'm like,
what the?
And I'm like, this is just a mechanic to send me through the house for no good reason.
And they couldn't think of anything better?
They couldn't think of anything better. That's what I'm saying. That's kind of what I was dealing with in this game. And I was like, why? There's so many. This is a huge house. It's an eccentric rich person's house. Where's the puzzle box?
So
it is not better than Alien Isolation.
Mm.
Alien Isolation is amazing.
Oh, Mayhem has a Russian accent. I'd like to hear that.
Excellent. I have a Brooklyn Jewish accent.
Not a far stretch.
Maybe I should do that during my live Twitch.
Yeah, definitely. No, I just think that a British accent sounds much more refined.
Really? I feel like the Scottish accent is the definition of refined.
Really?
No. Except when you hear them speak in Scottish accents in Outlander, then it's like, whoa, wow.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. That and Highlander too, when they talk in a British brogue. Only in Highlander would you ever.
But not the Lowlander accents. We don't want to talk about Lowlander.
I listen to Scottish accents sometimes, and I have no idea what they're saying. Just none. I'm just completely lost.
What?
I agree with you there. Actually, I've had that issue when I was in London before, not understanding just like a regular English accent. So.
But there's all sorts of different accents in England. Yeah. I love all the different stuff that you.
Do we have to go into the reason why we have those kind of accents? In London and England.
Share your knowledge with us. Tell me.
Really? I need to go there and say that? The British who conquered everything?
Oh, I see.
Yeah, definitely.
Got it.
We could go into that aspect of it, but we don't have time for a history.
We'll save that one for the Eddie Murphy show.
This is Women's History Month, so we have to be focused.
Yes.
Focus on our topic.
On women's history.
Let's rein it back in.
Let's rein it back in, yes.
Reel it in.
Before we talk about that, though, you all keep talking because I'm actually fixing a slide here, so go ahead.
Excellent. So is this what we call stretching? Stretching, like make it?
Keep going.
So Annabelle, tell me, what was the scariest moment, if any, within this game you just saw? Any? Did you even
I had to go into the basement and the music changed a little bit, but nothing happened.
Oh, that's tough. That's a tough review right there.
Okay, I'm done.
That's a tough review.
What was the overall? When you looked at the reviews, what was the overall reviews of this?
It got pretty good reviews on Steam. It's very positive rating, and that's like a high review on Steam.
Huh. Well, it's pretty. It's a pretty.
It got a 73 on Metacritic. So I think that if you're going into it looking for a narrative experience, you're going to have a better time. My mistake is I actually went in with no knowledge of this game before I played it.
Yeah.
I saw the title and the images, and I downloaded it and played it.
Yeah, that was enough for you. Well,
yeah, I'm not really into the whole gaming where you have to read stuff. I'd rather just shoot things or kill things.
I like games that I can play for a shorter amount and have satisfaction from, and this one's just more of a slow burn, and I don't have that kind of time to invest in games a lot of the time. Like I want to get to the action. I want to get to the game part. I'll read a book if I want to read a book.
I think though, if it has a really good storyline, then it brings you to a point where you're actually playing the story. Like you said, in Alien Isolation, it was a slow burn, and then there was some action. In that aspect, I think that I would love to play a game. But other than that, if it's that boring and I'm falling asleep, I could tell you no.
Yep, Mia was in there with me when I was streaming it, so.
She said it was a slow game.
It was a slow game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Les, you would turn that game off if you had to go get some oil to open a drawer too. Let me tell you, you'd be like, no.
The ridiculousness of it.
If I am not being attacked by some scary thing right now, then this is done. We're done here.
This isn't horror.
You know what? Here's the thing which is funny about that. If you think about that being written in a horror movie, that somebody would go and get oil to perpetuate the storyline, that's literally what they did. But they couldn't even write a better, they couldn't write a better thing about it, like how that person would have to open up the, I would probably accept if they said, let me go get a knife and try to open the door.
Yeah, or like a wrench or something.
Or something. Oil?
Like something Yeah, you have to oil the drawer to open it.
Okay. All right. One of these things.
Maybe
is
I've been
not
opening
fit.
drawers wrong in all these years. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe.
Maybe we
I've
have.
heard
maybe we have.
WD-40 opens anything.
It
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe.
it does, but not a drawer. Maybe the lock, but not the drawer itself. Anyway, let's go on. So we are celebrating Women's History Month, and Eddie,
Women in history.
Let's
Get
go
their
to your
own
segment.
month for us to celebrate. All right, what are you talking about?
That theme song has to go. Anyway, so let's talk about your segment next. So we are doing She Rose in horror.
She Rose.
Yes, She Rose in horror.
In the 60s, no less. In the 60s.
In the 60s. So
we have to be very focused on this segment.
Okay. All right. So let's get focused. Let's get focused.
That's right. So I have some movies that I want to talk about that, you know what? They take women to they show women in a different light. And this time women were very passive. Think they were the victim. Stuff was happening to them and they weren't able to fight their way back. And you know what? We need to slap that on the rear end and find some women who actually fought back and won. So I'm going to talk about, we just got to have some empowered women in here in the 60s. Come on.
Yeah.
So after a little bit of searching, we were able to find a few examples. So let's go to the first one.
Okay.
This is one that people should remember. The Birds. Who here has seen The Birds? Everybody's seen The Birds.
Annabelle had seen it for the first time last year.
With both of you. Yeah.
That's right. We had the screening.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, this is for those who haven't seen The Birds. It's amazing. It's an Alfred Hitchcock movie. You can see he placed himself on that poster there.
Of course.
He's very good at self-promotion. A wealthy San Francisco socialite pursues a potential boyfriend in a small Northern California town that slowly takes a turn for the bizarre when birds of all kinds suddenly begin to attack people for no reason. And it's not even explained. It is The Birds. It is amazing. It actually also starred Rod Taylor, Jessica Tandy, and Suzanne Pleshette. Do you remember Suzanne Pleshette?
Yes. And can I just state that Suzanne Plechette's character was probably the first model of an LGBTQ woman in a film.
That's right. And we're about to talk about another one in the next movie.
Okay.
So the lesbians are coming out in 1963. That's what we're saying. 1963, all the lesbians just keep coming out of all of our movies.
You know, I heard lesbians were invented in 1963. So
is that when they invented them? Damn.
Well, even so,
Learn it. Women History Month.
Look, they did not come out and say that she was LGBTQ. It was really, really hidden and hinted.
That's right, and that's because
there was small overtures.
That's right. That's because the people that would, stop your to make sure that you were going to get a certain rating would stop that sort of content from going live at that point. But the person that we're looking at right now, and the first person is Tippi Hedren. Tippi Hedren was found actually by Alfred Hitchcock in a commercial. And he ended up signing her to a 6-year deal in his production company.
Oh, wow.
And she came in. This was her first movie with Alfred Hitchcock. And actually, the commercial that she was in had her sort of wearing a sexy outfit, and then someone whistles at her. She turns around and sort of gives a little, flirty look to this person that whistles at her. And Alfred Hitchcock had Tippi Hedren do that exact scene from the commercial in the beginning of The Birds when she's walking through the town.
Okay, does anybody see any creep factor here?
There is major creep factor between Alfred Hitchcock and Tippi Hedren. Major creep factor. Let me say, first of all, let me talk a little bit about Alfred Hitchcock and how they approach this. So Alfred Hitchcock did this with Universal. and in 1968, and I'm sorry, 63, and they actually trained 3,200 birds for the movie. And they said that ravens were the cleverest, this is what Alfred Hitchcock said, and seagulls were the most vicious. So seagulls would actually do
I believe that.
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen them. You watch them in a Walmart parking lot fighting over food. Yes, them little things, them things, big things, they scary as heck.
That's why you don't go to Walmart, is the seagulls.
Yeah. Sit in your car and watch them. I mean, you don't have them in the Midwest, but here in the East Coast, we got some dueling seagulls up here.
we got them over here. I'm close to the coast.
Yeah, you're close to the coast as well.
I feel like that's an Instagram, seagulls of Walmart. So because of the there's also claims, Rod Taylor, who's an actor, claimed that the seagulls were fed a mixture of wheat and whiskey. It was the only way to get them to stand around so much. So you got a bunch of drunk birds throughout the birds, which I think is highly hilarious. Also, I found this out, which was so interesting to know that they filmed it in Bodega Bay, California, and there's a schoolhouse there where the famous schoolhouse scene takes place. And the schoolhouse, when they were filming there, was actually known to be haunted. So, according to Tippi Hedren, the entire cast was spooked to be there. Remember, there were a bunch of kids and Tippi Hedren, and they were singing a song. She also mentioned that she had a feeling while there that the building was immensely populated, but there was nobody there. When Sir Alfred Hitchcock was told about the schoolhouse being haunted, according to Hedren, he was even more encouraged to film there.
Because of course he was.
Of course.
Which I thought was very interesting. So there is a famous scene. By the way, this shot is part of the kids and Tippi Hedren running away from the schoolhouse. And it took them a week to film this. And they filmed half of it actually on location in Bodega Bay, and the other half of it back in Universal Studios in the back lot, which is so interesting because they flew a couple of those kids back into Universal and then they had puppet birds that were thrown at them. Anyway, the scene where Tippi Hedren, famous scene at the sort of towards the end where she's ravaged by birds, it took a week to shoot, and actual live birds were attached to her clothes by long nylon threads so they could not get away. And they actually attacked Tippi Hedren. So after that experience, Hedren has said it's the worst week of her life. The physical and emotional toll of filming that scene were so strong on her that production was shut down for a week afterward, and Hedren ended up in the hospital.
Oh my God.
But didn't she tell Alfred Hitchcock that she was afraid of birds and he actually used live birds? He promised her that he was not going to use live birds in this scene, and he actually did.
That's correct. He lied to her, right?
So not only
That's
was
correct.
he creepy, he was sadistic.
There is a definite sadism associated with Alfred Hitchcock and the way he treated Tippi Hedren. By the way, who is Tippi Hedren's daughter?
Melanie Griffith.
Melanie Griffith. That is right.
Mm-hmm.
So, you want to hear another Alfred Hitchcock's creepy story?
Yeah.
Well, is it the one that he was actually pursuing Tippi Hedren all this time and she spurned his advances?
No, but it has to do with Melanie Griffith.
Okay, let's hear it.
All right. So while they were filming this, Alfred Hitchcock presented Melanie Griffith during filming with a doll that looked exactly like Hedren, eerily so. The creepiness was compounded by the ornate wooden box it came in, which Melanie thought looked to be a coffin. So he gave a doll in a coffin, a doll of her mother. It's just too unbelievable to even imagine.
Yo, this guy sounds weird.
He was weird. He was weird. I mean, he was brilliant. He was a brilliant director and screenwriter, but he was weird.
But there was a cost.
There was a cost, especially for her.
Dude had issues. Dude had mega issues. It's true.
And he was married. He was married, and he was going after her.
That's right. Now, Tippi Hedren ended up in this movie, if you've seen this movie, to sort of overcome all of those attacks and really fight back, even though she was completely, she went through hell trying to get through this movie and get to the end, but she survives, and she is our first Shiro of our list. Now, let's move on to the next Shiro, shall we?
Yes.
We shall. Now, the next Shiro is actually a woman by the name of Julie Harris. And she did a movie in the same year that Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds came out in 1963, and it was called The Haunting. Now, who knows what other movie sounds like The Haunting? Not even...
Like The Haunting of Hill House?
The Haunting of Hill House. That's
Yes.
exactly right. And it actually is a take on The Haunting. If you go and you look at The Haunting of Hill House, it's actually looks like the same movie. Slight differences, but it's actually the same movie, just brought into a future decade. So,
and is this related to the modern Netflix series as well?
Yes. No, it's not.
You think it is? I don't think it is at all.
So I think that it is. This film has been actually, The Haunting of Hill House has been recreated several times. It was done. Okay, The Haunting of Hill House, which is the one that had Pamela. Oh, I can't think of her name on it right now. It was a very famous young actress at that time. This movie, they also redid it, I think, in the 90s.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And and so I believe that the series is kind of based on this premise.
Well, the premise is about Hill House. So Hill House has stood for 90 years and appears haunted. Its inhabitants have always met strange, tragic ends. Now, Dr. John Markway has assembled a team of people who he thinks will prove whether or not the house is haunted. So, by the way, director Martin Scorsese, we know him, has called this his absolutely favorite horror movie of all time, which I think is so good. And you see the lead here. This is Julie Harris, and Julie Harris is actually a really famous theater actress.
Yes.
So she came into the world of film as a theater actress for this role, and she actually completely focused on being this character. And so much so that she ended up ignoring some of her co-stars because she wanted the sense of isolation for her particular character. And she didn't want to develop any sort of relation with any of the other actors. And a lot of the other actors thought she was totally aloof and crazy and kooky during the filming of this movie because she wanted to isolate herself so much. At the end of the movie, she brought them all presents and explained what the heck she was doing. But she didn't do that.
She was a method actress.
Definitely a method actress. That's right. This, along with the other one, was one of the first movies to explore a lesbian relationship. And this is actually kind of explicit in their lesbian relationship. So the censors, who I was talking about earlier, demanded that the two women who were having this relationship, there they are. Is that them?
Yep, that's them.
Yep. Oh, okay. I didn't recognize Julie Harris for a second.
Nothing gay here,
crazy
straights. Move along.
They're all
Just
like
a woman with a tie on in the 60s.
So
hey, that was really popular, those bow ties back in the day. Those blouses.
It's
But
true.
go ahead.
You would look good in that, Annabelle. According to Julie Harris, the censors demanded that Theo never never shown to be touch Eleanor. Isn't that interesting? A woman named Theo never was shown to be touch Eleanor in order to keep the lesbianism less obvious. Well, nevertheless, they touched several times in the movie, including Theo sitting on the bed. So they just were like, screw you, we're going live anyway with it.
But I kind of remember them actually in the bed with one another.
I was about to say, I remember watching this movie and being like, that's pretty gay.
Yeah, they were in the bed together. They were in the bed together. And I think that the dark hair, what was her name? Not Theodora was played
Theo.
Either the censors did not watch this, or man, the straights are really oblivious.
Well, it was all of the guys. It was all of the guys that the main character was afraid, and Theo told her to get in the bed with her. That's what I remember about the movie when I was a kid and I watched it. Yes.
Oh my goodness. So this movie was actually filmed. The exteriors were filmed on a set. Not on a set, but in an actual house, Eddington Park Hotel in Warwickshire, England. And they actually have a cemetery near the property. And so Russ Tamblyn, who is an actor there, has shared a story that he took a stroll to the cemetery at the rear of the property and had an experience nearly as terrifying as the film itself. And he explained he explained that on the commentary track included with the DVD of this film. So, one of the actors did have a haunted experience in a cemetery right next to where they filmed this.
That's pretty spooky.
Yeah.
So this was filmed in England. Am I correct?
You absolutely are correct. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And Julie Harris actually suffered from depression during the making of this movie. I think it was the sense of isolation and what she did herself and what her character was going through. But it did take her quite a while to recover from making this movie because it had such an impact on her. Now, what we do know, though, is that she went through an emotional roller coaster in this movie, but she made it out in the end. She ended up kicking ass, quite honestly. So she is a Shiro.
Mm-hmm.
Shiro, look at that picture. I love that photo. Miss Julie Harris, well worth seeing. I think it's available to watch right now on Amazon. Now, the final one, which we will talk about, is with a woman who was actually in Gone with the Wind. And she only
one of my favorite all-time actresses. One of my favorites.
She is Hollywood royalty, like et cetera. Like she is someone who everyone in Hollywood, certainly in the golden age, knew, and she had an incredible career for so many decades. Her name was Olivia de Havilland, and Olivia de Havilland did a movie that you see here in 1964 called Lady in a Cage. And what was that cage? That cage was an elevator. And she plays a woman who is trapped in a home elevator, which is then terrorized by a group of vicious hoodlums. And I love that name, hoodlums, because I never use that. Hoodlums.
That's also a 60s phrase.
But among the hoodlums was actually a very young James Caan. So there are wonderful photos of James Caan in this. There he is. And James Caan was basing his performance actually on another performance that came out recently, just before this movie, and it was Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire. So when you see James Caan's performance in this, know that James Caan was trying to emulate that other performance. So this poor Olivia de Havilland, this poor woman, she is put through the ringer. Like there was nothing not thrown at this woman. This poor woman she had a broken hip. She needs to get from floor to floor. She's lucky enough to have an elevator, and the world is just against her. Look at this photo of James Caan.
I had to show hilarious. This one because this reminds me of Marlon Brando in A Streetcar Named Desire.
Yes.
When he's calling Stella. So
yes.
I could see that. He's even got his hair like Marlon Brando's there.
Totally. He has more chest hair though. I have to say.
Yeah, definitely more chest hair. Definitely more chest hair.
It's a different chest hair. All right, so actually, who was originally supposed to play this? Joan Crawford. Joan Crawford was supposed to play this role, and she had some what they called scheduling problems at the time. And Olivia de Havilland stepped in. Now, this wasn't the first time that de Havilland had to step in for a role to replace Crawford. She also replaced her in Hush Hush Sweet Charity. And by the way, in order to get Olivia de Havilland, they had to pay her $300,000, which in 1964 was a lot of money.
That's smart.
Do you mean Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte?
Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. What did I say? Charity?
Yeah. But
Oh,
there's
yes.
Sweet Charity. Yeah.
Sorry. Hush Hush Sweet Charlotte. Yes.
Okay.
And actually, de Havilland loved James Caan in this movie, saying that she loved filming the movie after this was done, and that she thought James Caan was a revelation with his performance, which is so exciting. Like, I remember James Caan really beginning in the Godfather series and that type of thing. Seeing him in his early days, he was in commercials and that sort of thing and trying to break into film. Seeing him really explore some of his acting chops here is actually a real treat.
Are those
Can I just say that
pantyhose on their faces?
Yes, but interestingly enough, do you all notice that they look like movies that we know out today, like You're Next and The Strangers.
I was about to say, I'm getting strong The Strangers vibes here.
Yes. So now nothing is new under the sun, actually, because I believe that they probably took that from this.
Yeah, specifically person on the left.
Yep.
Definitely.
It's making me want to rewatch The Strangers, to be honest. I feel like that's a movie we haven't talked about, but is one of the best, more modern horror movies that's come out.
Freaked me the heck out. I thought The Strangers was amazing.
Well, what I will say about that is I know for sure that this is what they based this on, because if you've ever seen this movie, you would see that the pattern of behavior of these three hoodlums is pretty similar to that, except now we're in the 21st century, or the 20th century. At the time, it's become a little bit more graphic. For this time, when this came out in the 60s, this was horrifying that they did this, that they terrorized this woman in this cage. And I recall that as a child watching this. It was like scary to even think that there would be
I haven't seen this movie, and I really want to now after seeing the highlight of it.
Oh yeah, and it was when it originally came out, it got bad reviews because people were not used to the vulgarity. They weren't used to this level of extremes, the intensity.
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, people were just shocked by this. So it got bad reviews, and it has since gone to be reevaluated decades later, and is now seen as sort of a film that actually presented the turbulence of the changes of the society in the 60s. So it's really gone on to sort of get the credit that it never got when it originally came out.
If it's as good as Demon Night was when I watched it last week.
Fright Night?
Wait, no, Demon Night. He
Demon
watched
Night.
Tales of the Crypt.
Oh, Tales of the Crypt, Demon Night. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Had you ever seen that before, Annabelle? What did you think? Let's just stop for a minute. Let's talk about that real quick.
It was so good. I
Yes.
loved all of it. I loved just every minute of it was just so exciting. Oh my God, the special effects, the everything about it.
Yes. And how charming Billy Zane was, how awesome Jada Pinkett Smith was in that whole movie. And did you notice anything about it? Remember I told you about the way that they shot it, the color of the film, the bread was the blood of the color of the blood was so vibrant. Yes. There was a reason why they filmed it that way. Such a good movie.
I
Worth
loved
watching
it.
a lot. Yes. With a great ending. Definitely. All right.
All right. Those are our Shiros.
Thank you. So
Of the 60s.
I can't wait to see what the 70s brings.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot to choose from in the 70s. We opened up a can of whoop ass in the 70s. So
Oh yeah.
There is definitely some good pickings for the 70s.
Sisters were doing it for themselves in the 70s.
They were.
Right?
They weren't waiting. They were
waiting.
They were kicking it.
All right. So I am, since this is Women's History Month, I decided that I was going to do a little segment on female hauntings. Yes, most female hauntings are, some type of vengeful spirit, some type of female that, it's usually that kind of basis, and which makes them more scary because hell hath no fury like a woman scorned. So imagine that woman then being in the guise of a ghost, So today I'm so excited to present to you all. I made like a little film. Can you believe it?
You made a film?
You're a filmmaker? Like Alfred Hitchcock?
No, not Alfred Hitchcock. I wish I was that skilled, but I'm learning how to at least do like segments where we actually, we can do like a 15-minute segment or something like that with a little voiceover and everything. So my equipment is not the best. My skills at voiceovers are not the best in this. I tried to make it like scary and creepy at the same time. I was going with the spirit of scariest places on Earth.
Oh, yes.
With Linda Blair's voice, yes, which was a great show. I was trying to give it that kind of a feel, but I was just fooling around. What I'm very proud about is that I did it in about an hour and a half. So that just goes to show you how successful this is going to be once I perfect my craft and doing my own little films.
Well, let's see it.
All right, so let's show our little film. So as I'm doing female ghosts, let me just say to the audience, I'm doing female ghosts. I'm just going to go through several female ghosts this month. But I started with one because I was only able to create one. I think next week I'll probably have 2 ghosts that I'll talk about on film. So let's go to that. Let's roll that footage.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Don't judge me.
I won't judge you.
Here we go.
But love.
You got this.
Nothing but love.
Right. Here we go. London. London is first on our list. When you're walking around London full of scenic history, beautiful culture, and a romantic past, it's hard to imagine that there's a darker side, a side that's full of murder, hauntings, and strange creatures. But London has some of the strangest hauntings. Nurses, bankers, criminals, murder victims, animals, witches, and a queen. The haunting of Anne Boleyn. King Henry VIII was King of England from 1509 to his death in 1547. He was a strong, robust, handsome man. He is described as one of the most charismatic rulers to sit on the English throne. What he's most known for are his 6 marriages and the way in which he managed to dispatch of his wives when he wished to get a divorce, which at that time was against papal law. When Henry set his eyes upon the beautiful and gifted Anne Boleyn, he figured out a way to annul his first marriage to Catherine of Aragon. Against the wishes of the church, Henry pursued Anne Boleyn for marriage. He then banished Catherine of Aragon to Chimpton Castle, where she lived out her days as a dowager queen, eventually dying of a broken heart and cancer. After Henry banished Catherine of Aragon, he made quick work in marrying Anne Boleyn. He spared no expense on her, lavished her with love. He was besotted. He spent many hours dreaming of all the children that she would bear for him, in particular male heirs that would carry on his name and his lineage. They made a beautiful couple, the 2 of them, ruling England, doing things together. Anne was quite educated, and she entertained Henry for hours. However, Anne's first child that she bore for Henry was a female. They named her Elizabeth.
Elizabeth was bright, beautiful, with flaming red hair. She had a curiosity for life. She was the splitting image of Henry. But Anne was unable to conceive a male heir for Henry, thus causing Henry's disdain. Anne believed that Anne had tricked him into marriage, knowing that she was unable to bear a male child. Henry, not being satisfied with Elizabeth being the only heir to his throne, set his sights on another lady-in-waiting by the name of Jane Seymour. Anne then knew that her days were numbered, but she did not know how Henry planned to dispatch of her. To the surprise of everyone, Henry accused Anne of treason and had her imprisoned in the Tower of London to be executed by beheading. And on May 19, 1536, Anne Boleyn was beheaded. She had only been queen for 1,000 days. Anne is now said to haunt the Tower of London, walking through its halls in her flowing gown, carrying her severed head in her hands. She is claiming her innocence and how she was wrongly accused for loving a king, and endlessly searching for her daughter Elizabeth, who incidentally became one of the greatest queens of England.
Wow.
That was good. That was good.
Thank you. So I'm still working a little bit trying to get it together, but I think that's Eileen, for me to throw it together in an hour and a half, I'm like
I thought
surprised.
that was great.
Yeah, an hour and a half.
Thank
That seemed
you.
like a lot of work for an hour and a half. My
Yeah,
God.
it was a lot of work finding pictures and stuff, to tell your narrative and your story, and doing the voiceover at the same time.
I like your voiceover. You got such a funny sound going on there. That was neat.
Funny sound going on.
I like that voice, my scary voice or whatever.
It's good.
Yeah.
I've been to the Tower of London.
Me too.
Really?
It's a really good tour if you're ever in London and you want to spend an afternoon.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was awesome.
I've
Very
stood.
spooky.
We probably have both stood where Anne Boleyn was beheaded.
The interesting thing about London, per se, is that it is so extremely haunted. And I remember as a flight attendant when I used to travel there, I actually went someplace, and I'm not really sure where I was visiting, where I was actually standing on the graves of people. It was like I was standing on it with their names and everything. And it just gave me the creepiest vibes to know, first of all, the history, the bloody history of London and how it was. And I probably would equate that the same with France, because France has a very bloody history as well. So London is full of haunted places. It's full of haunted places, and mostly not because these people did not, but these people were so religious. They were so legalistically religious that they feel that they can't enter heaven or go into the other world because they have not been freely accepted or forgiven in their lives. So this is why you have all these hauntings there.
Well, there's a massive amount of haunting, and there's also active archaeological digs. There are not just what we know of London right now, but there's when the Romans were in London and it was an outpost for them, there were many centuries of human distress going on there of many different kinds. So that would be an interesting topic to go into. I'm sure we could spend lots of time digging into the hauntings of London.
Well, this particular haunting of Anne Boleyn, they said that the guards who actually guard the Tower of London have actually seen lights flickering and seen images of her. And somebody actually captured her, an image of her. I didn't feel like I saw the footage, but I just didn't feel that it was enough that I was satisfied that it would be Anne Boleyn.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is that people
aren't we supposed to be the skeptics?
I know, but
it's got to be bad if Les is saying.
If I'm telling you, the evidence was not enough for me to say that I would like to present this to our audience or to you. So and there are a lot of, tall tales that people say it might not have been Anne Boleyn. There was a lot of people that got beheaded at the Tower of London. So
a lot of people died.
what is the distinction between Anne Boleyn and anybody else is the fact that she does wear a brooch with a bee on it. And I believe that Henry gave her that necklace with her bee there.
Wow,
I believe.
that's interesting.
So that might be the defining indicator that she is Anne Boleyn, or as it's a ghost of Anne Boleyn.
Well, Anne Boleyn has really captured the imagination for so many decades. There's been so many movies, TV shows created about Anne Boleyn. And I love the idea that she lives on in some form and haunts the Tower of London. I love that idea. I think that's great. She made such a huge impact in a relatively short amount of time. And she was probably the first, like, I don't know if celebrity is the right term, but the first like real fascination that we see
that people had a fascination with her. I mean, she spoke French. She was, bilingual. She
very
was
beautiful,
very beautiful, very cultured, very smart. She knew how she was a great conversationalist, and ironically, after all of this and Henry accusing her of treason and killing her so that he could be with Jane Seymour, their daughter, ended up being one of the greatest queens of England and the namesake of the current queen that we have there right now in England.
Amazing.
Yep. So, I think Henry cut off his nose to spite his face at this juncture, because he should have stuck with her. He ended up dying a very horrible type of death because, he had gout. He had all these horrible things going on with him. He did not end it. He died a big, pretty mess. That's pretty much what it is.
Well, he was
disgusting.
He also had multiple marriages.
Multiple marriages and possibly venereal disease. Possibly.
Pretty rampant at that time.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's my story about Anne Boleyn. She is one of my Shiro ghosts because I think that at the time she was a badass, ahead of her time. Somebody who was out of step with the century that she was born in.
Sure.
Yeah.
Very good pick.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of our show. We will be here next Thursday. Thank you for hanging with us. Next week, we will continue on with our series of Shiros and horror films. Annabelle will have some new footage of a new game for us. And I will continue with our ghost stories with female ghosts. So we'll see you next Thursday night. We'll be back here on Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, 7 o'clock Central Time, and 5 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Last looks, everybody. We're all good?
Oh, yeah.
We're all good. See you next Thursday here at the Tingling Tea.